So this session is going to be a little bit different. I'm just going to spend about 5 minutes setting the stage about an open source resource that I'm showing for the first time today. And this is really about getting your feedback. So let me share my screen. And we'll do step 3. There it is. So during this session, I'm going to invite you to share the use of your favorite learning analytics model or algorithm, if you have one to share. And I'll start with a 1-minute video to kind of introduce the concept. And when I did share, I didn't say share audio, so let me know if you can't hear that.
To democratize the power of learning analytics. INFERable is launching LearningFace.ai, the Hugging Face for learning analytics. Hugging Face is one of the most influential platforms for building, sharing, and using machine learning models. Hugging Face is used by thousands of organizations. And now, as the Hugging Face for learning analytics, LearningFace.ai will not only be a place for developers to find the best learning analytics models, but it will also be a bridge between research and practice. Now, AI inference detectors used in advanced adaptive learning systems will be available to everyone. INFERable will offer plugins and learning analytics as a service that can be used by less technical learning professionals. LearningFace.ai, empowering researchers to get their work published and used, and empowering learning professionals with the latest learning detectors. Email INFERable's founder, Jim Goodell, to learn more.
Okay, so I'm going to try to go back one slide and because I want to give some framing what I mean by learning analytics models, and because my system has been slow. So here's the focus of LearningFace currently. We're focusing on machine learning models that are trained with learning activity data. So like clickstream data. Input models, input data to the models is also learning activity data. And then input data is in a standardized format. So in this case, it's XAPI format. It could be caliper format as well. If you're not familiar with XAPI, it's an actor verb object. So for example, a learner presses the play button on a video player or presses the pause button and then answers a question on a formative assessment. Now, all of these can be linked to context as part of the XAPI statement. So we take these event streams and we can infer some things. So we can use various knowledge tracing models and infer whether a learner who has been practicing a task is going to be successful on the next attempt. Or we can infer things like off-task behaviors. So I was going to do the quick walkthrough here, but I think I'll finish the slides first. And I'm going to stop the slideshow. And I'm going to wait for the spinny wheel to finish. And then I'm going to switch to a browser and show you the site. So the main page shows these model cards of different learning analytics models. And then under the main menu, there's a Publish My Model option and a Create New Object button. And here's where I'm inviting everyone, if you have access to a model in the next 15 minutes, fill out the form and publish your model. I'm going to put the link in the chat to the site, learningface.ai. And where is the chat? So in the chat are two links. The first is to learningface.ai, and that is the site. This is the first time I'm showing this as a prototype, and I really would like feedback about does this work for the kinds of analytics models that you are working with? Is there something else that we should be doing with this site to make it easy for researchers to publish their models and get them used in the real world? So the second link is a form for making comments and suggestions. So with that, I will invite you to take 10 or 15 minutes to enter something in the form. And if this is if this is the wrong audience to be asking this, please, let's have a discussion instead.
So Jim, while people are entering questions, just looking at your learning analytics models coming on from previous conversations we've been having throughout the day, your early warning system for at-risk students, and you're looking at the different models. So lots of predictive modeling and what we're doing and how it's coming on is used obviously a lot. So within those, with the standard triggers, how are you incorporating past performance as well? And does that have a stronger weighting in your model?
So I'm looking for the community's models rather than saying that I'm developing a model. This is
Okay.
really a crowdsourcing effort. So
Okay.
but that's a great question. So if we're looking at learning event data as the main source, then we may want to weight fresher data higher than older data.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. All right. And so, and these, the first 9 tiles that we're seeing, that's just the start. And you're looking for
That's
other
this.
models for things. Okay.
Yes, those are just examples of the kinds of models that we might publish here. In
Okay.
fact, they're just placeholders. So,
Mm-hmm.
So, Jim, I'm a little, it's unclear to me. So in terms of the model, so you want to know kind of how, if we have um, a outcome predictive algorithm that we apply and we roll out on our campus or clients or faculty, which one is that? Or because models are designed to fit data, and so they're based on platform and processes that are in place in our institutions. So it's
yeah.
unclear what is more a survey of models that are available or implemented by an institution.
Yeah, I think the goal is to find models that can be reused across institutions or across learning contexts. So, for example, we were talking earlier about gaming the system kind of um, models, like that Ryan Baker invented. And that kind of model could be used in practice applications that had hint buttons. So it didn't really matter whether and it was originally designed in the context of middle school math. But the same detectors could be used whether the students were learning algebra or geometry, because it was about the behavior in interacting with hint buttons and the durations of time between hint button activity and other kinds of activities with the practice application. So I think ideally it would be those kinds of models that can transfer across contexts, or that could be retrained for if it were a model that were predicting, let's say, predicting frustration and dropout of students. It could be a model that could be tweaked for a different context. And the initial focus is on those kinds of micro-adaptive models that can help inform feedback mechanisms to learners. At least that was my original focus. But I'm really looking for feedback from you and the community about is that the right focus, or is there a need for different kinds of models to be published widely?
Just a question on your models with the adaptive learning path recommendation engine around based on performance and goals. Each one of those is so dependent on the discipline that they're studying, the degree program that they're studying, what are electives, what are meant compulsory units and all of those. That's very different or difficult to broaden to multiple disciplines within an organization, in addition to using it across different institutions. Many have tried this. Don't know of too many that have been super highly successful. It's a good idea.
That's good feedback, yeah.
But it's tricky. It's really difficult.
Yeah, and so that's good feedback. So there may be some models that have been proven not to transfer well, or some aspects of defining those pathways that don't transfer well, and that would not be a good candidate for learning face.
No, and then if we're crossing not only institutions within, a province or state, but if we're going across the country, different ones use units, subjects, courses, programs. The language of how they describe the chunks of learning is quite different. The credit points is quite different. How you build it. Having tried to do this in one organization and it really did not go well, very time consuming, and you have to take it. So for instance, if you're studying a Bachelor of Science, but there are so many majors within it, then it becomes, if it's this major, that major, if you have an institution that has a generic first year for their science, or are common at the other ones, that one's really tricky.
What do you think if the framing were to change from pathways within a program to pathways towards a certain certification, like a cybersecurity certification, where the competencies involved might be the same across institutions, or nursing, something where there are common competencies across institutions. Would that be more suitable?
I think it would, where you have an accreditation so that they have to do the sorts of, I think that will lend itself better. Short courses and chunks for getting, a certificate, I think would work better. But institution-wise, across programs, degrees, whatever we want to call them, it's extremely difficult to achieve and to make it cross disciplines, schools, faculties, institutions. Not that I'm saying we shouldn't try it. I'm just saying that's a really tricky one if you're looking for models that can be
Sure.
applied in multiple situations and vehicles.
Good point. Yeah, I think my original focus was on the kinds of models like in Duolingo as a platform, they have a spaced repetition model and a it's a trainable model that uses data from millions of learners learning a language to predict when someone's going to forget a word and then reintroduce the word just in time for them
Mm-hmm.
to practice that word. So those kinds of micro adaptive models was the original focus, but I think you're right. There are probably certain contexts where those more macro adaptive uh, pathway guidance models won't work, and others where they might work. And I guess uh, I guess that's what I'm hoping to get more feedback on to see what
Mm-hmm.
could be valuable in this site.
Okay.
Is there anyone that on the in the room that works at that level of researching those micro adaptive kinds of analytics? I'm hearing So
Maybe
what?
it's just the wrong uh, the group at the moment, Jim. I think though
Mm,
making it available more broader. So maybe if we want to, I'm thinking of where we've got all of our attendees in Slack, or if we can put it in more detail in the Google Sheet and ask people, I think you'd get a broader discussion. I can see people making comments in your spreadsheet
I'm
and
good.
doing things. So there are comments and things going in. They're talking about the features and they're talking about some stuff. So um, I think it's a very good starting
Mhm.
point um, of what it is that we're looking at, what it is that you're trying to do. I think it's great what you're trying to do. Absolutely. And trying to pull it together. So looking at, the first start and those sorts of things. And I think we just need to kind of help get the message out to a broader group of people who would be more of a specific target audience to do that. Um, I have had PhD students who've done it where we've absolutely done the early warning system, where we've done a broader student engagement, not from video logs, but with their course content in their LMS and where they go off the LMS, go out of their forums into other forums and looking at that. So I have students who are researching and doing that, of looking at those sorts of things. So they would be the better ones to talk to you
Okay.
about, because they're the actual ones doing the research. And if you're comfortable, I'm more than happy to kind of share this with them and get them
Oh,
to provide some input to you if that's helpful.
please do. That's
Okay.
really how I want this to be a collaborative endeavor. And I really believe in centered design and data-informed decision making. So the
Yep.
more we can get the community to give feedback, the more value it can be to the community.
Great. All right. And I'm happy to do that. And I'm happy to share it across um, the learning services team within my university because they've just put in a new system as well, and they're looking at it. So we actually have a learning science team in that. So if as long as you're comfortable, I can share that, and then I can introduce you to some of them as well directly, and they can interact back and forth with you if that's helpful.
That would be great. And as long as they know this is the first prototype,
Exactly.
and that's why I need feedback because it's
Yeah.
nothing works perfectly the first time.
No, exactly. And you just need you just need a conversation. So thank you, for bringing it here and putting yourself out there for a preliminary first time to do it. So no, it's good.
Yeah. And thank you those who already put in comments. That's great. Um, Feel free to continue to put in comments in the spreadsheet, and also if you have ideas afterwards, feel free to reach out to me. And thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Any questions about other questions? I think we have 5 minutes left.
Yeah. What I might do is I might just stop spotlighting you and then we can see everybody.
I think I unspotlighted myself.
Did you?
But
Okay, so I'll just change my view to gallery view so then I can see everybody. So that's great.
I I was so I'm someone who's in a technical role interacting between faculty members and different tools and departments in my university. And this would be very useful for me in a project creation phase, where when I'm talking to faculty members who don't have a huge background in education or educational theory, where we can look through things. And I think that this information coming from a source like this would really bring a lot of authority to the approach. And I think it would make it easier for a larger team that doesn't have the background in this kind of stuff to get the buy-in and the longer term thinking of what they need to be able to do. There's a similar, not similar, but it made me think of it. MedEd Mentor is another project where I've seen where it's pretty interesting. I don't know if you've heard of it, but they take all of the educational theory that's been published on PubMed, and then they put it into a chat interface that lets you discuss educational theory with people who aren't exposed to that, in particular for medical education. And they're providing it for free, but you have to do like a login, give them your email kind of thing. The people doing it are just trying to figure out if this works or not. They're doing a pretty nice job. But no, I think it's great. I think it's cool. Like, I guess that's to say, like, for me, I hope I hope you keep moving this forward. I'd love to be able to use it. Be useful for me. So thank you.
Yeah, I think one of the goals is to also make some of these models available as plugins. We've done some research we have a prototype plugin for Moodle that essentially will give a prediction probability of success on the next attempt based on the previous attempts. But that's kind of just the beginning, and we can do the same thing using LTI for Canvas. We haven't done that yet, but that's one of our goals. So so the idea is to kind of lower the bar, lower the friction for even non-technical users, because once the plugin is installed, then course designers can just use it rather than having to do coding.
Any last questions, Graham?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking about, I like it, but I'm thinking about, for me, I'm doing a lot of things where we're moving quite quickly, making things using like Cursor as an editor, or like doing agentic coding, and having something like model context protocol, like an MCP server for this kind of material would really help get that information into the place where we technically would be making the decisions. And we're in a place where the technical aspect of it is not as aligned with the research and with the theory as I would like it to see it. And that would be a nice component for us to narrow that gap, to be like, okay, so I'm making something and open up Cursor. This is my MCP server that I can put into it that's going to help me input the right models. And at our institution, if we wanted to put a plugin into one of our learning management systems or something like that, it's a really big deal. It's like, okay, we're starting from the point of this project's going to be 8 months now. because we want to augment a system, but we have alternative routes for doing something, which is like a pilot, where we can do a small contained thing and we can put it out there and we can get data coming in. We could get it. It's a quicker path to a win for us to start saying this is worth doing, and to investigate. But saying that we're going to change how like Canvas works is very serious. There's very serious impacts and the stakes are quite high for that. So that would be really nice for me. I'm sure that's easy to make, right? Like that's just
Yeah, if it's for Canvas, if it's just an LTI, use of LTI, then it's not really changing how Canvas works, because there are lots of things launched with LTI within Canvas. So, but I like your idea of this being an MCP server. That's another path to interoperability, even though that's kind of focused on LLM kind of interfaces. It doesn't have to be. This is kind of a small model interface, but it can still use MCP. That's a great idea.
All right. Well, thank you, Jim. We're going to, we're actually staying in this room for the closing, but we're going to actually turn off the recording and then start and stop again for the next one. So thank you, Jim. Thank you, everyone, for participating.